I know there is an uptake on trying to, reduce the diversity and inclusion factor in sports. I think BCCI is a great example where they've got women cricketers to the same level of that of the male cricketers, and I think it's a great example for everyone to follow through.
How did you prepare yourself physically and mentally for your return?
The game of badminton had completely changed in this 20 years. It used to be a little more longer, but now it's very fast. It's very agile. It's the point system is very different from what it used to be back then. The technique of the rackets are different. There are thousands of rackets. Like those days, we had just two best rackets, and we would just go with that. Shoes, like your form, like your footwork. So I had to become a student again myself. Sometimes we feel like even me and my whole badminton fraternity, we say, gosh, had we had these opportunities, perhaps we could have also done more. For example, sponsorship, the technique of the game, the focus on that, having options to have sports as a career. Today it is there, but back then, we didn't have. I used to have these bouts of, okay, I used to tell my parents, I think I'm done because it takes a lot to do. And I remember my dad saying, just one more championship, right? Like, I just want your name and photo to come in the newspaper just one more time, and then you can, leave. And that happened. Like that year, I won double championships, and I was, featured in Sports Star, if you remember those days.
I
And
do.
Sachin Tendulkar was making his debut, so I shared the same magazine, like space with him. So, I still feel very honored with all that I had.
Hi, in today's episode, we have the privilege of hosting an extraordinary guest, Yasmeen Shaikh. Yasmeen's remarkable journey and achievements are nothing short of inspiring. I am absolutely honored and in awe. Yasmeen is a Vice President of Human Resources at Healthcare and the first woman at the India Board of Directors for a US multinational. With over 20 years of experience, Yasmeen is a renowned leader in employee engagement, diversity, inclusion, and crisis management. But wait, her prowess doesn't end in the boardroom. Yasmeen is also a phenomenal sportsperson who made a triumphant return to competitive badminton after 20 years. You heard me right, after 20 years, winning national, international championships, including the prestigious All England Senior Championship in 2024. Balancing her professional and athletic pursuits, Yasmeen is an inspiration to billions, including me. So join us today as we dive into the story of Yasmeen Shaikh, a true trailblazer in every sense of the word. Welcome, Yasmeen, in today's podcast. I am so honored to have you. So before we ask you all the other questions, first tell me the story of how you got into badminton first and what sparked your passion for the sport.
Thank you so much, Mohua, for that very kind introduction. It's an honor to be here on your show because you're doing incredible work. So, hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Um, it's been a great journey so far. When I first started badminton, like all of us would play on the streets, where our parents would watch us and the neighborhood kids. So that's how I started. And from there, my parents enrolled both my sister and me because I used to play with her at the club, at the local club. And this was in Belgaum because while I was born in Bangalore, we were partially raised in Belgaum because my dad was on a transferable job. He was a senior leader in Bestcom. So they enrolled us in the club, and I started playing when I was below 12. And one thing led to the other. I did well at the club. I would play with all players. Very, very curious. I was to just learn more. Played the state championship, got selected to play the nationals. So I played at the sub juniors, juniors, and senior championship, and now, of course, masters championship. Earlier, when I had just started, when I was in Belgaum, my parents took me, my dad, to Delhi for the national talent contest. Sports talent contest is called NSTC, which is where SAI, which is Sports Authority of India, selects children. And I was one amongst the 12 who got selected. So in my high school, which is 8th, ninth, and 10th, I was in a boarding school in the sports hostel and, with all other children, my 8th, ninth, and 10th in Chikmagalur. Beautiful school, amazing facilities, great people. So I studied there. I had a dedicated coach who was fantastic. I trained and I'm very grateful to him. So from there, I moved to Bangalore then. I was at the Kantirva Stadium. I was staying there in the sports hostel. And we were 3 girls and 100 boys. And then I moved on to Kingeri, which is where the main center for Sai is, training there. And again, came back to Kantirva. I was, I had coaches in the youth center, which is the sports facility that the Karnataka state government provides in Bangalore. I trained there. I trained under Prakash Vadkun sir, under Vimal sir's guidance, Mr. Vimal Kumar. I remember going to his office in LIC building near Town Hall, and on the terrace, there was a badminton court that Vimal sir used to coach me. And of course, Prakash sir, in Prakash Court's way, his father used to run the place. And then he started his academy, which is the Karnataka Badminton Association, where I went to. So this is how I got into badminton and just continued and played for the state for more than a decade now.
Yasmeen, you have to tell us on this podcast 20-year hiatus. I also had a hiatus for 15 years and then I came back, but physical sports, badminton, after a 20-year hiatus is not a joke. So, how did you move back into court after 20 years? What motivated you to go back?
So that's a great question, Mahua. And sometimes I just wonder myself, right? But I think where it started was post COVID. Actually, so when I stopped playing competitive, life happened, family, kids, and then when COVID happened, everybody became conscious about health, fitness, I think a purpose in life and things like that. Of course, I didn't sit down one day and say, okay, this is my purpose in life. No. As I went back to the badminton court just for fitness, because I think that that was available that time, because of the COVID restrictions, we could just go and play there. In fact, both my kids also would, play. So I started playing more for fitness, and I had friends saying, "Hey, why don't you start playing, competitive again?" I said, "No way! Like, just look at our work schedules, look at the kids' schedules. I mean, there's no way it's gonna happen." So I kind of pushed it, but family and friends both said, "I think you're still playing well," and I said, "Look, I'm not fit. I mean, how do I just go?" So after a lot of persuasion, especially one of my friends who I'm very grateful to, I played the tournament at Prakash Patkun and Dravid Academy at CSC, PDCSC, near Yelahanka. I said, okay, I'll test waters. And I said, okay, I think I can, but I need to work on fitness. I need to do a whole lot of things to really get to that. So one thing led to the other. I played at the club level and then I played at the state level. I got selected to play for the nationals. I did very well there, podium finish, and I represented India at the World Championship. So it all happened like, one after the other. But yeah, it takes a lot to get there. But that's how I came back to the sport because that's something I love too. So I just enjoy doing it.
So, Yasmin, let's just get to you right now. And, I need to get inside your mind. Did you have moments of regret of having given up? And did you feel that, a huge part of your life, which you're passionate about, has gone in these entire year of matrimony, raising children? Because I've been there also. I enjoy being a mother, but there was certainly, there were moments when I used to say that, oh my God, I've lost the identity that I could relate to. And, coming back is never easy, Yasmin, ever, So, and for you, for sports, I'm sure there's so many more youngsters who are coming in there. How did you overcome all these thoughts? And did you have these thoughts? I for sure had, Yasmin. What words?
Yeah, no, I'll be honest, and I think you've really got into my mind. There's a side of me which says, when I played, I got the best of the facilities. I had the best people around me, the best coaches. But I think the visibility for sport was just that much at that point in time.
Oh.
Like sometimes we feel like even me and my whole badminton fraternity, we all grew up for more than 25 years together, 30 years together. We say, gosh, had we had these opportunities, perhaps we could have also done more. For example, sponsorship, the technique of the game, the focus on that, having options to have career, sports as a career. Today it is there, but back then, we didn't have. Like I remember, I played national games and for Karnataka, and that's it. That was the last one that I took, and then went on to do my MBA. But I don't regret it. I'm grateful for whatever I've achieved because I think it's still something that I'm super proud about. Because I remember those days. I used to have these bouts of, okay, I used to tell my parents, I think I'm done because it takes a lot to do. And I remember my dad saying, just one more championship, right? Like, I just want your name and photo to come in the newspaper just one more time, and then you can, leave. And that happened. Like that year, I won double championships, and I was, featured in Sports Star, if you remember those days. And Sachin Tendulkar was making his debut. So I shared the same magazine, like space with him. So, I still feel very honored with all that I had back then. Because Mahua, I also got shortlisted to play for India back then. I got a telegram in school saying you're selected to play for India in Mauritius. And the team was getting ready, but unfortunately, we had a situation in the country that the country was grappling with social economic crisis that we had, because of which that was postponed. But maybe that would have given us an edge. But whatever it is, I'm grateful and I'm happy about it.
So, Yasmin, you know what? The more I'm listening to you, I just start feeling so sad that excepting for cricket, there is no other sport that is really pumped in with the marketing, advertising money and the brand endorsements. And, if one would look at being successful in sports, it would only be the men's cricket. And I really hope that that changes over time, and all other sports people who really put their heart and soul into their body. I mean, for somebody, here's me, I can't even imagine what it takes, to really. I mean, I think to push your body is required different type of meditative energy. It's different altogether, right? So it's
Yes.
really, really sad that even today, women's sports stars are not given the kind of pedestal that they deserve, really. I mean, of course, I don't like to ask this question, but I have to ask you this question: that how do you balance, your corporate leadership role and your passion for badminton? Why, as a vice president in a healthcare company, which is so dynamic. And I know this whole balancing question only women are asked, because women have homes to take care of. And I don't like to ask this question, but it's a question that I know that we all have to navigate, because the owners of the children, the home, the school, their report cards, their PTA, everything falls on us. So
Right.
how do you manage that?
Right. No, it's a great question, Mo, and I'm so glad you're asking because these are things we need to talk about, right? Because we assume and we leave it, but I think it's important to talk about it. I'm grateful I have an amazing spouse, like my family, while my parents are nearby, my husband and both my kids, extremely supportive. I think he shares the load like 50-50 or even more than that. I don't think we really carve out saying, what it is. So I don't feel overwhelmed with just like, okay, it's me running the house. I think he's an equal or more a better partner than I am. But it takes a lot to do, you know, a full-time job, playing competitive at a very different level, kids schedules, your house schedules, like everything. I think the first step for me really began with prepping myself mentally to say, can I really do it? You know, is it is it something like you can't fail in both, or you can't say I'll do one and not the other because both are equally important. So I think first is that acceptance to say, okay, I'm going to be doing both, and I maybe mentally chalked out saying what it meant to do that. Right. For example, Mahua, the game of badminton had completely changed in this 20 years. The format of the game, like the way it used to be a little more longer, but now it's very fast, it's very agile. It's the point system is very different from what it used to be back then. The technique of the rackets are different. There are thousands of rackets. Like those days we had just two best rackets and we would just go with that. Shoes, like your form, like your footwork. So I had to become a student again myself. So I knew that if I'm going to be playing, so I looked at the calendar of the tournaments that are there for the year and talked to my family about it. And everybody was super excited. They said, yes, Mama, you should do it. And things like that. My parents also said, yeah, why not? And my husband was always very encouraging. So I went ahead. And at nationals, I met a lot of badminton players who became friends. So I have good partners who were always very supportive. My mixed doubles partner and my doubles partner. So I think for me, it's about when I accept it in my mind, like when I do these things, this is going to come to me with certain things. For example, I became a student of badminton again, which meant I have to first be physically fit, like you rightly said, to play that game for 1 hour, your footwork, right? And I have to find a coach. I have to find the time to do it. Where is the time? My work, very demanding. And we were going through a huge transition ourselves as an organization. And I had to be honest on both sides, of my job as well as badminton. So I would have early morning calls, during the day work, late night calls. So balancing that. I'm super grateful for the support I had from my family, my parents, my husband, both kids, the organization, that supported me. We were working 100% from home. So that provided me some sort of flexibility. So if you ask anybody in the badminton field, they will say if you find Yasmin, you'll always find her with a laptop. I'll be sitting somewhere in the corner, like doing calls, finishing my work. If I have a match, I finish that and come. When I played World Championship, I used to do calls even at 11 p.m. at night because my leaders were in the US and my team was in India, so I would do 6 a.m. calls, 11 p.m. calls, and my coaching. So that's being fair to my job. And second was coaching. I would do Sunday 1 p.m. because that's when the coach is available, or 10 p.m. on some day, like I would pick 2 3 days, or 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. when kids go to school. 6:30 is when the bus comes. So I think each day was a plan, and then I had injuries. So the doctors, the physiotherapists making time for that, my fitness, my food, my diet, sleep. I was sleeping less. Somewhere I wasn't sure if I was burning out, but I think I made space for it. So each day was a planning, Mahua. And I think for me, I just felt like everybody worked together to make sure I show up on the court, I show up at work. And sometimes things just work for you because your intention is right. The universe just makes things happen for you, and I am just so grateful for it.
Oh, I'm so grateful to have you on my podcast today. You have no idea. I actually really personally you know that. To meet you and get a date going with you. So it's like asking Yasmin, how did you prepare yourself physically and mentally for your return? It must not have been easy. So just for our listeners, anybody who wants to go back, into sports, which I'm baffled every time because the body really gives up. So how did you prepare, yourself?
Yeah, no, it's a great question and something all of us should think about because sometimes we put our passions away and say, okay, this is the need of the hour. Let me just do this. One is, I think, it begins with just signing up for this, saying, am I ready to do this? And at what level? For example, am I going to play all 5 tournaments or I'm just going to focus on the state level, national championship, world championship, Asia championship? That's what I played. Or you're going to play everything and anything. I think if you could do everything and anything, we're not gonna, end somewhere. So I chose what I wanted to do and work towards it. So I learned the game. So there's skill, knowledge, and fitness. So I worked very closely with my coaches, and I'm very grateful to them to say, what shoes should I buy? I have an injury. What do I do? How much should I do? What's the load I can do? They were so helpful. I would do videos of my training. I would go back and look at it and say, oh, this is where I need to correct myself. This is where I'm not doing. So the next time I practice, I correct that. I also did a lot of meditation. I also did classes for mental preparedness, where how do I play a match? And what does that translate to? And I would write down every day, Mahua, that this is what I learned today. This is what I did. These two things went well. These two things didn't go well. And tomorrow I'm going to continue to use that and take the learnings from that and, sort of get better. So I think having that goal, visualizing where you want to be and working towards that. And really, each time you come across a hurdle, just seeing the larger picture and moving forward. You don't have to fight all battles. You don't have to be perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, and just keep moving forward. I think things just work out. Just keep showing up. But I think one thing that I would always do is just show up. If I'm in pain, if I'm in whatever, just show up and be honest, be dedicated, work hard. It always pays off. I'm a firm believer of that.
Ditto, ditto. I'm also a firm believer of showing up and generally, and hard work always pays off. So,
Absolutely.
just for our listeners right now, players like Kash Padukone and Gopi Chand have won the All England Senior Championship. What was it like to win the gold at the All England Senior Championship in 2024? So today, for my listeners, we have a guest here with us who won the All England Senior Championship in 2024. And how did you overcome the top seeded players? You have to tell us about that.
Thank you. Thank you for that question, Mahua. It's a dream come true. It's a feeling which is, unexplainable. It's a feeling that's going to stay forever. That you really won something which is so fulfilling, and like you've just reached the pinnacle. It's that kind of a feeling, and to uh, share stage with legends like Prakash and Gopi Chand sir is an honor. I mean, I didn't even realize that until somebody told me, "Hey, did you know this?" And I'm like, "Oh, really?" And in fact, Prakash sir met me, and he spoke to me, and we shared saying, "Okay, are the medals very similar looking?" And things like that. It was an honor. So for me, I mean, there's a little bit of a background here, Mahua, where when I played the World Championship, I lost in the quarterfinals of the singles match that I was playing. I lost by 1 point, which means had I won that, I would have had a medal for India. So I lost by 1 point after trailing 12-19 to a Japanese seeded player. And somehow it just stayed with me. I was so hurtful. I was in tears. I was, feeling so bad about missing that one match. And I said, whatever, when I came back, I'm like, whatever it is, I have to win like a medal for India. And I had an injury when I played the World Championship, but I didn't let that come in the way. I taped it, I used everything, and I still played. When I came back, I started working on my injury, and then the Asia Championship happened. So again, I played for India, um, and I won 3 medals for India there. It was 2 silver and 1 bronze. It was so satisfying. I was so grateful for those medals and everyone who worked with me to get me that. And I think I was just like, okay, my dream has come true, right? But when this year, when All England came, that was the most prestigious tournament that was there. And I said, I have to give it a shot. Actually, I was in two minds, Mahua. I'm not sure if I shared this with you earlier, but I had a tear in my Achilles tendon. I had in both my feet, I have an Achilles tendon injury. So I went to the doctor in Jan. He said, look, you have 3 options. A, sorry, I had nationals as well because it's a new season in Jan. He said you can choose not to play both. No nationals, no All England, because you're just going to make it worse, and I don't know if you'll be able to walk and things like that. So I said, of course, he meant well. Um, Second option, you prioritize and see which one you want to play. Something happens, don't regret, because think that you gave it your best shot.
Yeah.
Third, play both, nothing will happen. So I said, maybe I'll take the third option. I'll play both and maybe nothing will happen. So I played the national championship. We won gold. My partner and I in doubles and mixed doubles was bronze medal. And then I played All England Championship and I made it to the semi-final. I played in the -2 degrees of an environment. And because of my injury, I was on medication. I was on sprays, creams, all kinds of gels, painkillers. And I taped my leg and I had to warm up extra so that my legs could function. And I played and I reached the semi-final. Now, usually in some BWF tournaments, that's Badminton World Federation tournaments, you win the semi-final, you get a medal. But here it wasn't. It was the format was slightly different. So it has to be a gold or a silver. My semi-final lasted for an hour. It was 1 hour, 1 minute to be precise, against Romania, who was a second seed at the All England Championship. I won that. And finally, I was in the finals. And I said, this is it. This is my moment to go 200%, And like Prakash sir said, you don't come so far to lose. Like you give it your 100%. So I spoke to my husband that morning. I remember saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. What if I don't do it?" He said, "It's okay. It's important. You played this tournament. That itself is important. We're not going to think of you any different if you lose. Just play. Play like you're practicing, right?" So I had that. My kids spoke to me, and then my partner was always in my mixed doubles partner, great support, and the India team supporting there. And he in fact acted as a coach. I won the first game, and I took point by point, and I said, no mistakes, play inside the court, stay calm, stay focused, one by one, right? So one by one, I made that point, and finally, I was playing the second game. We were running neck to neck, and there it was. I won the gold. I finished the match. It was over. And I was like so super happy and excited. I called my family immediately, video calls and all messages coming through. It was fantastic. And of course, my physiotherapist was always along my side, motivating me. I'm very grateful for all of them, especially my husband, kids, parents, partner, physiotherapist, my doctors, my coaches, and my entire badminton fraternity and friends.
I got the goosebumps, Yasmeen, listening to you. I just followed with you when you spoke to me. You're such a good speaker yourself. I mean, it's amazing. I really traveled with you. But you know what, Yasmeen, I have to ask you something very, very politically incorrect. Do you think that there is disparity in recognition of support, for male and female athletes in India by the media? Do you think that male athletes get more recognition than what females do?
Um, I think it's a mix, and maybe I know, like you rightly said, it's a politically correct answer, no, but you do see scenarios where you feel, oh, you know what, they could have also covered this, they could have also covered that, right? But I know for age, there's a huge gap, which I think we need to fix, right? If you're 30 and above, um, I don't know, I think media doesn't recognize you, or maybe they do, right? So I think maybe you start looking very different. So, but I think maybe that's something that, they could do better. And women, definitely, we can get more visibility. I know there is an uptake on trying to, reduce the diversity and inclusion factor in sports. I think BCCI is a great example where they've got women cricketers to the same level of that of the male cricketers. And I think it's a great example for everyone to follow through. It's good to see many other sports getting recognition, but yes, I think there's more that we could do as a system, as a sports governance globally, that we could get more women to the forefront and recognize them more.
So, Yasmin, what are the personal sacrifices that you've had to make, in pursuit of your athletic and professional goals? Tell us a little bit. Do you think some of the sacrifices that you made were worth it, or were they justified, in the long run, or were they sometimes detrimental in your personal relationships? Tell us a little bit about that, because a return after so many years, there are many things one has to negotiate, and for that, I will tell you that many people were quite unhappy about me coming back into work, because I think as a close family around you, they don't like to see a change in you. They like to have a same person, who they could count on, and then suddenly this person is getting very, very busy, with her own goals. All right. And yeah, so that can be sometimes, quite daunting. So tell us a little bit about that.
Right. No, absolutely. I think you nailed it. You said it so well. I think when you make choices, you have to be prepared. I think it's all in the preparation, right? So a lot of sacrifices that we all make, and in particularly, since you asked about me, a whole lot. Like, even at a time in my younger days, when I was still single, and still playing for the state and at the national level, I think I just had two goals in life: studies and sports. There's no socializing, there's no friends, and of course those days we didn't have WhatsApp or social media or Instagram or any of those, right? So we were just that and the library. We had Reader's Digest, we had competition success. It's a lot of sacrifice, and my parents have traveled so much. Like, my dad would leave his job and travel with me across the country for so many tournaments. My mom would travel, in fact, my grandfather, who used to also be an assistant commissioner those days, would come, like he would show up before me for my matches. So I think you miss functions, birthdays, parties, celebrations, social gatherings, relatives functions, like especially now when I have come back. And it's so hectic because you already are having hectic schedules with kids and work and all of that. And plus, do you really need to do this? Like you've done so much, I mean, there are always naysayers, right? But I think it's about, I think if your inner circle, like my home team, my dream team is close to me, I think you can deal with any situation. Right? I think it's also worth it. It's so worth it. And I'll give an example very, very recently, Mohua, All England Championship, right? So it clashed, again, a little sensitive, so I'll be mindful. It clashed around the time when it was Ramzan. Ramzan is the biggest festival for us. It happens once a year and, just of great significance. And I had to travel a day prior to that. I tried to do everything to see if I can move the date. Can I land at a certain time and just start playing? But I had to also get acclimatized to, -2 from 40 that we were in, peak summer or 38 plus. And I asked my dad, I said, and we were fasting, I said, how do we do it? Like, and somebody asked, hey, are you fasting and practicing? Yes, I did few days of fasting and practicing. And then I said, I'm sure God will understand. And I would make peace with balancing it out. So I traveled. So my dad said, yeah, go ahead. My husband, in-laws, they said, yeah, go ahead. And, my kids, I was feeling very, very guilty of just not being there. Of course, every Eid we celebrate with my mom's house. They said, no, it's okay. We'll just call you. Mama, don't worry. You should just go. And I found that to be so calming. Like there's such small kids still, right? And I'm like, so I went ahead and booked tickets. So, what my daughter said is, Mama, we put mehndi like the previous night of the Eid. We preponed that. Like before I traveled, we went and did that. And, my sister helped with the shopping. My son was like, you don't worry. And, we had the sweet, like what would we do on that day? We kind of celebrated in a very sweet way. And I think that's what it is. But I think all of this was just so worth it because sports career, learning those life skills, you know, it teaches you something else, sports. And then finally, winning a gold medal for India, like I don't have to say, okay, just silver and bronze. It's a gold medal as well for India at a very prestigious tournament. I'm so happy about it. And my whole family is with me. So this goes to them. This medal is, to them.
All the medals to you, Yasmeen, also. More There's like a very sweet mom and a wife who's talking, but yes, it is your sacrifice. And, I mean, hats off to you. Like I said, that I'm so moved when I'm listening to you. So, do you believe that there's nepotism in the world of sports, and what impact do you think it has on the opportunities available to deserving athletes? I mean, have you observed any instances of this sort?
Again, it's a very thoughtful question, Mahua. I mean, nepotism, whether we like it or not, exists. It is there around us. Maybe some it's very obvious, some ways it's very subtle. But I believe it's there in some parts, in some form. I think the flip side of nepotism is you miss out on good talent sometimes because of that. It's like you've taken away somebody else's opportunity, that could have been something wonderful for that person. And I really wish we could do, but I don't know how far we will get to this because today, if you look at even sports, like both my kids play sports, they're into football and, gymnastics. So you find age frauds, like players coming from a certain area, misguided into something else. Like it's all there. I think it's hard to recognize that in the first place. And by the time you've recognized it, you've kind of gone to the next step. Right. So I think it's something we have to maybe deal with when we face it, because I don't think there's one single way to say, what this happened and this shouldn't. But I think when we see it, I think that's when we can have a conversation about it. But yeah, it's very detrimental to having good talent sometimes.
So let's just talk about this recent debate that's been surrounding transgender athletes competing in categories, that align with their gender identity. And what impact do you think that this has on the fairness of the competition? Because there's been so much of talk right now And, it seems a little unfair to us that maybe, it should probably just be each gender should compete with their gender. So do you think, what is your thoughts on this?
Absolutely sensitive topic, something we've witnessed in the Olympics to a very large extent. And I remember one of the newspapers reached out to me asking for my views about that, especially the boxing one, right, is to say what's right and what's wrong. Maybe one of the ways to handle this is to have clear guidelines. You have associations, you have governing bodies. If two bodies are having two different criterias for the same thing, it's very difficult to, identify and separate the two, because in the case of, the boxing controversy that happened, one of the organizations said, we have to conduct tests, right? We do tests and then we will confirm. The other one said we will just see the passport. Both are right in their own way. But somewhere I think we need to have a more unified system where people don't go through this trauma. It's traumatic for everyone, for people who are participating and people who are going through that. Because psychologically, mentally, it's very draining, and it's discriminating for people who are participating and also going through. So I think maybe having some clear guidelines, and somewhere we also have certain perceptions, right? Like if it's a female, you have to fit into the female body type. Again, it's a sensitive thing, so I'm being mindful. If you're swimming, like your sport needs you to have that much protein, that kind of a physique, that kind of agility, so you will end up doing that. We also have to be more accepting of the situation around us and think of it as a sport, not as, you know, how can she be a female, or how come he's a male? She looks like a male, or he looks like. I think we draw a lot of comparisons, which may be something as a society we should start looking at it differently, and maybe just sometimes respect the process. If someone's saying, "Hey, they qualified after going through the criteria," I think so be it, and be more accepting. I remember, I used to have short hair when I used to play. People would call me a tomboy sometimes. So I've had a few situations. So I can imagine it must be so hard for someone to go through that. Like swimmers have broad shoulders, or gymnasts have a certain body. But I think we have to just accept things the way they are and have a more clear process and guidelines which will act as a guide for everyone to participate and make it much more open.
Yasmeen, did you face any bias or prejudice in your career of sports, in your sports journey?
Yeah, I think we all go through our journeys. I've had my share of such a situation, but thankfully it's not been very devastating, or I think it's just a learning because you see situations and you learn from them. For example, when you're playing a certain sport, a majority takes that. Like you mentioned about cricket, right? So when I remember when I was in the sports hostel, we were 3 girls and 100 boys. Most of them were like hockey and other sports like athletics. Badminton, I was the only person. So I didn't have a companion to kind of go through that. I was all alone by myself, and you had a common mess where you go and eat together, and you have an assembly where you have the national anthem every morning. You do that together. Your schedules are different. So, and because of that, I didn't face any bias, but you go through certain situations where, okay, because let's say certain timings, there's a cutoff for a certain, like let's say food type or availability of certain resources for a certain time. Because my schedules used to be very different. Like I used to wake up at 4 in the morning, go for training, come back, go to college, come back, again go for training in the evening, come back, by 8:39, and then crash out. Right? For people, maybe it wouldn't start at 4; it would be at 5, or it would vary. So I think it's about adjusting yourself and navigating yourself through that. To sometimes it could be sports attire, you're wearing shorts, and how come you're doing that, and even now, but it's an outlook. I think if your focus is sport, and thankfully I'm grateful to have been born in a very progressive family. So you just look at it very objectively, right? Sports needs you to wear a certain thing, which is okay, and you go with it. So I think some of those, the skin color conversations to, not knowing a language, a certain language. Like when I was in the hostel, I didn't know how to speak Kannada because I knew Marathi because we were in Belgaum. I didn't even know how to say rice in a local language. So learning that, and because of you not knowing a certain language, you could go through certain situations. But I'm glad that I made, so I learned the language there. So a lot of positives to learn from every adversity that I've gone through in sports. And I'm grateful for that.
But so you are where you are to be able to find light in adversity, Yasmeen.
Thank
So,
you.
Yasmeen, what advice would you give to aspiring athletes who are looking to make a comeback and achieve their goals?
The first thing I would advise them is to sign up for themselves, right? Like you sign up and then you own it. When you own it, be intentional about it. Put your true self in, be honest about it, and motivate yourself to show up that first time and then be consistent. And at a time when you feel you just want to give up, that's when you show up. Like, just don't stop and try to make things work in that direction, and it'll all, work together. And there is no substitute for hard work. And sports teaches a lot of life lessons. Most important, how to deal with failures and how to bounce back. So keep at it, play for the love of the game, and you will do wonders.
What are the future plans and aspirations in your athletic pursuits? I don't want to ask about your corporate pursuits because I really look up to you, Yasmeen. So, irrigate all those broken barriers, and women like you need to be really on the cover pages of magazines and every newspaper to tell us that there is no time limit, to when you can go ahead and restart your life all over again. So, what are your future plans, Yasmeen? Please tell me.
Yeah, very kind of you, Mawa. Thank you so much for that. I, will continue to play. Right now, I have rehab going on for both my legs. I'm going through physiotherapy and, a lot of strengthening and all of that. I hope to come back next season. I have a tournament coming this September, which I'm hoping to play. But, the next season is what I would look for. And, if everything goes well with my feet, I'll be back on the court and playing. So I look forward to that.
Wishing you all the best, Yasmeen. Thank you for taking out the time for today's podcast. And once again, for all our listeners, this was the extraordinary Yasmeen Shaikh on the Mohua Show. Thank you so much, Yasmeen.
Thank you so much, Mohua, for having me. It was a pleasure interacting with you. And thank you, everyone. Really, really honored to be here. Thank you for your time.